Welcome to another edition of the Mailbag from the workshop this time, and we've got a fair few comments to get through. But before we get through those today, normal parish notices. So, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, why not? Hit the subscribe icon. If you want to be notified when this sort of content or other content hits the channel, that's the bell icon is the one you should be hitting. If you like the content of this video or any other video you watch on the channel, give it a thumbs up. It really helps. Become a member of the TMTG community. The address is down there, as are the Instagram and Facebook pages, or Instagram and Facebook pages, whichever way around it is. Go over there. You'll see all the shenanigans of the channel are notified on those platforms. But now back to the video. This one's from Michael Walls. And it's in response to, turn the page over, have you been screwed by Catalina? Video I did in September 2020. And I'm going to actually add a caveat to the end of this as well. So, I have another Mac-related question. That seems to be very easy to answer, or, well, not. I am thinking of upgrading to a 2018 Mac Mini. But I'm concerned about the lack of USB inputs on it for my external hardware. Roland Jupiter XM, Roland SE Groovebox, Steinberg audio interface. What the Mac Mini does have is USB-C inputs, Thunderbolt 3. But do they actually work in the same way as USB inputs? Say for sending audio and MIDI into Logic Pro X. All the best. Hope you can respond on this non-issue, Mike. Mike actually writes some really good questions. So it's always good to respond to one of his questions. I can only relay my experience on the whole sort of USB-C thing. But the USB-C interface is backwards compatible, and that's the kind of the key thing. And I've had no issue running a USB 1 or a USB 2 through a USB-C through the interface. So that's my experience, and I've got on my Mac it's got USB C interface. However, there are a couple of gotchas. Number one, get good adapters. Okay, a lot of people buy cheap adapters. I've always bought the Apple ones. I've never had a problem with the Apple ones, apart from the fact if you need 4, they're going to be expensive. But they convert the USB socket into a standard USB-A socket. The interface socket will allow you equipment to purchase using A or B connectors to connect. And I've personally had people report that the cheaper eBay knockoff Far East, mainly from China connectors, while they might work, give up the ghost quite quickly. And there's something about what Apple do to their... I'm going to have someone scream at me now saying, no, there's not. I can only go by experience. The cheap ones won't last. The Apple ones don't fail. Okay. That's my experience. I don't know why, whether there's some chip in the wire or something they do to it, but there's something that is done that causes these ones from the Far East to fail, right? They might not fail on day one, but they will fail. The other thing that you can do is you can get a cable that does the conversion for you. So instead of actually having a dongle that fits on the USB-C socket and then converts it to a flat pin USB-A style socket, you can get a cable that will just plug straight in from whatever device. It goes USB-B on one side to a USB-C connector on the other side and forms the bridge for you. But again, same rule applies. Don't buy it from some five and dime shop or China. If you buy a good reputable one, Apple tend to use Belkin, I think is the one you can buy in store actually. Buy that because it will work. Okay. So USB-C was designed to operate to the latest USB standards. So if you open up the cable, if you open up a USB-C cable actually and look at it, there are 15 or 18 wires compared with 5 or 6 in a standard USB. So if you think about what it's trying to do, it's actually trying to shunt more data down these wires. So for backwards compatibility, the surplus cables need to be correctly terminated, and I think that's where the cheap cables fail, possibly. The final gotcha is about power. So a USB-C interface is rated up to 100 watts. Yes, you heard me say 100 watts. You can power something to 100 watts on a USB. So that's 20 volts at 5 amps. Which is quite considerable. And in fact, to be honest, most machines, even though they might have a USB-C interface, if you actually add up, the power consumption, and then you look at the actual wattage of the power supply and what the machine consumes itself, it doesn't quite add up. So you can actually on some of these machines where I've seen USB-C. Now, admittedly, Apple doesn't, but on some other machines, I've seen USB-C. And if you add up the number of USB-C interfaces and you turn around and say the USB-C spec is 100 watt on a C connector, and you've got four of them, unless you've got a 400 watt power supply or 400 plus watt power supply, you can't run 100 watts on each of the connectors, if that makes any sense. So that's strict adherence with the sort of USB 3.2 standard. A normal USB interface, remember this is a normal USB interface, is restricted to 2.5 watts. So 100 watts, 2.5 watts. Although each USB port will be capable of delivering the power as opposed to X watts across all ports on older USB arrays. So that's another good point. So if you look at older machines, you have 4 USB slots, but actually they're drawing on the same power source. So even though they say they can support X amount of watts or X amount of amps or whatever it happens to be, it's across all the ports, not across one port. I hope that makes as much sense as mud. Now, I said I was going to caveat this. So this is being recorded in November 2020, and Apple have just launched Big Sur. Okay, here is a big red flag. Okay, a lot of manufacturers have not certified their equipment with Big Sur. So if you're one of these people who loves to update their Apple device, immediately the operating system comes out, hold fire, because you may find that some of your equipment stops working. Have you been screwed by Catalina?